The day the Critharians arrived was like any other. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and Major Jack Reynolds was in a meeting about budget cuts. The monotony shattered when the skies over Washington, D.C. darkened, not with clouds, but with the massive silhouettes of alien spacecraft. Panic ensued as the ships descended, silent but ominous. Jack was pulled from the chaos at the Pentagon and rushed into a secure room where screens flickered to life, showing similar scenes unfolding globally. These were no explorers. The posture was clearly aggressive. As humanity watched, a broadcast in unnervingly perfect English confirmed their fears. "We are the Critharians." The alien's voice was cold, emotionless. "Your planet is now under our control. Resistance will only lead to your extinction." The world's leaders scrambled. Militaries were put on high alert, but the uncertainty of what the Critharians were capable of held everyone's hand. It wasn't until the first war beast was unleashed that true horror set in. The creature was colossal, a leviathan of flesh and metal, with piercing red eyes and limbs that could pulverize concrete. It roamed through New York City, immune to bullets and artillery, a living nightmare that made their intent horrifyingly clear. Jack was charged with forming a response. He was a career military man, known for his strategic mind and unflappable nature. As he gathered his team, he pushed aside the rising dread. Fear would not help them now. They needed information and a plan. Their first break came unexpectedly. Amateur footage from a drone hobbyist provided a closer look at one of the beasts. As the creature moved, its side revealed what looked like breathing vents, or perhaps weaknesses. Jack seized on this. They needed more intel, and they needed to understand the enemy's technology. He organized a team of scientists and military tacticians. They pored over every piece of footage available, every encounter with the beasts. Patterns began to emerge. The creatures were incredibly powerful, but not invulnerable. They seemed less effective in harsher terrains, struggling with mountains and dense forests. As the initial shock wore off, Jack's focus sharpened. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a war they needed to win. He looked at the map, dotted with sightings and incidents, a web of potential and danger. They would fight, yes, but on their terms. The Critharians might have brought the war to Earth, but humans would show them it was not theirs to win. "We start small," Jack told his team. "Hit and run, learn their limits, test their resolve. We have one advantage. They don't know what we're capable of." With that, Jack set his plan into motion. It was time to turn the hunters into the hunted. As the world held its breath, a new chapter of human history was written, not with words, but with will and wit. Jack knew the road ahead was fraught with peril, but it was a road they must travel, for the alternative was not worth considering. They were down, but not out, and it was time for the Critharians to learn just what humans were capable of. The crisis center was abuzz with activity as Major Jack Reynolds walked in, his face set in determination. Around him, screens displayed various points of interest, each monitored by anxious operators. General Carter, overseeing the operations, noticed Jack's arrival and gestured him over. "Jack, what's our status?" General Carter's voice was tense but controlled. "We have partial intel on the war beasts, sir. They're not just muscle. There's technology in them. Maybe they're weak points, too. They're tough but not invincible," Jack reported, handing over the drone footage. "Good work. We need options, Jack. Ideas that can turn into plans." Jack nodded, his mind racing. "I propose guerrilla tactics. We hit them where they're weakest. Use our knowledge of terrain to our advantage. Engage, then disappear before they can react." General Carter considered this, then nodded slowly. "All right, start putting a team together. I want your plan on my desk by 0600. "Yes, sir." As Jack turned to leave, a young lieutenant hurried over, a note of urgency in his step. "Major Reynolds, you need to see this." He handed Jack a tablet showing a live feed from Chicago. A single war beast was rampaging through the city, with conventional weapons barely slowing it down. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Get me a line to the unit on the ground, now." The lieutenant nodded, quickly setting up the communication. Jack's voice was calm but firm as he spoke to the commander on the ground. "Captain Lou, it's Major Reynolds. Pull your men back and observe. We need to learn its patterns." "Understood, Major," came the reply, amidst the sounds of chaos. Jack watched the beast move, noting every detail. Suddenly, he spotted something. A brief limp when it stepped on its right leg. A vulnerability? He made a quick decision. "Captain, have your snipers focus on its right leg. See if it reacts to concentrated fire." Minutes later, The feedback was positive. The beast faltered, clearly bothered by the attack on its weak spot. Jack's mind raced. This was critical information. Back at the crisis center, he briefed General Carter. "We've found a potential weak point, sir. I recommend we adjust our tactics accordingly." General Carter looked at the footage, then back at Jack. "All right, Jack, you're leading this. Make it happen." Jack's team grew, experts and military personnel brought together by a common goal. As they strategized, Jack's leadership galvanized them. They weren't just fighting for survival now. They were fighting to win. "Listen up," Jack began, addressing his newly formed task force. "These beasts have a weak spot, and we're going to exploit it. We hit fast, hit hard, and then vanish before they know what's hit them. Every strike must count." The room filled with a new energy, a mix of nerves and resolve. Jack looked over his team, their faces set with the same determination he felt. "We're not just defending Earth, we're taking the fight to them. Let's show these Critharians that humans aren't to be underestimated." As the team dispersed to their assignments, Jack felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This was their chance to turn the tide, to make a real difference, and he was determined to lead them to victory. Under the cover of night, Major Jack Reynolds crouched in the shadows with his special ops team, watching a Critharian outpost through night vision binoculars. The air was tense, anticipation palpable among the soldiers. Jack's voice broke the silence, whispering into his comms. "Delta Team, you are green. Move on my mark. Mark." Silently, the team advanced, their movements a ghostly dance in the darkness. Explosions were set to be minimal. The goal was to retrieve data, not announce their presence. As they approached the perimeter, Jack's second-in-command, Sergeant Hayes, signaled a pause, eyeing a patrolling guard. "2 on the tower, 1 roving. Timing's gotta be perfect," Hayes whispered. Jack nodded, replying, "On your go, Hayes." Moments later, they neutralized the guards with swift precision, moving into the compound. The team split, with Jack and Hayes heading towards the main communications hub. Inside, Jack quickly installed a data siphon device on their network. "Time to see what secrets you're hiding," Jack murmured, watching as the device blinked alive. As the data transfer began, an unexpected door opening caught them off guard. A Critharian soldier entered, stopping short at the sight of the intruders. Before it could react, Hayes subdued it with a stun device. "Nice save," Jack commented, checking the data transfer progress. "Let's not wait for more surprises," Hayes replied. They secured the data just in time, extracting moments before Critharian reinforcements could discover their breach. Back at their base, Jack reviewed the stolen intel with his analysts, finding detailed maps and troop movements. "Looks like they're not as prepared for our terrain as they thought," Jack noted, pointing at the sections showing unpatrolled forested areas. "That's our playground then," Hayes grinned, looking over the maps. "Hit and fade, just how we like it." Jack planned their next moves meticulously, targeting Critharian supply lines and isolated patrols. Each strike was calculated, using the terrain to their advantage, striking fear into an enemy who thought humans easy prey. After several successful operations, Jack's team gathered around a campfire, the flames casting long shadows. They shared a rare moment of relaxation, but the weight of the war was never far from their minds. "We're making a dent, but it's not enough yet. They're adapting," Jack said, stirring the fire with a stick. "One step at a time, Major. We're learning, evolving. So are they, but we're still one step ahead," Hayes replied, the firelight flickering over his determined face. Jack looked around at his team, their faces hardened by battle but resolute. "We keep pushing. Every operation must count. We're not just defending, we're sending a message." As the fire dwindled, the team's resolve hardened. Shadows and flames had become their allies in this war. With each new challenge, they adapted, using stealth and cunning against brute strength and sheer numbers. Jack knew this was just the beginning, but he also knew his team was ready for whatever lay ahead. They had to be. The fate of Earth depended on it. As the war dragged on, the limitations of fighting alone against a superior enemy became increasingly clear to Major Jack Reynolds. In his office, lined with maps and screens showing troop movements, Jack sat deep in thought until a notification blinked on his computer. It was a secure communication from an unexpected source, an alien diplomat from the Zephyri, a race that had long suffered under Critharian aggression. The message was succinct. Proposal for mutual assistance, urgent. Curious and cautious, Jack initiated a secure video call. The screen flickered to life, revealing Ambassador Tyla, a Zephyri with shimmering blue skin and bright, intelligent eyes. Major Reynolds, I represent the Zephyri Confederation, Tyla began, her voice calm and measured. Like you, we have felt the Critharians' wrath. Alone, we falter. Together, we might stand a chance. Jack leaned forward, interest piqued. What kind of assistance are you proposing? Technology exchange, intelligence sharing, coordinated strikes. Our goals align, Major. Together, we can introduce a new variable they aren't prepared to handle, Tyla explained. Jack considered her words, aware of the risks and rewards such an alliance could bring. I need to discuss this with my superiors, but I'm inclined to agree, Ambassador. Let's prepare a preliminary plan. Over the next few days, Jack worked closely with Tyla and her team. They traded information about Critharian weaknesses and discussed potential joint operations. This budding alliance expanded as more oppressed races, having heard of the human HFY collaboration, reached out to join their cause. In a high-security meeting room, Jack met with General Carter and other top officials to formalize this new coalition. Maps and digital projections filled the room as they strategized their next moves. General, these alliances will extend our reach and multiply our efforts. The Critharians won't expect a united front, especially from smaller races they consider inconsequential, Jack argued passionately. General Carter, a seasoned military leader, nodded thoughtfully. It's a bold move, Reynolds. Ensure our new allies are trustworthy. We can't afford leaks or traps. With the alliance cemented, Jack and his new partners coordinated a series of strikes across multiple fronts. The first was a joint operation targeting a Critharian supply depot on the outskirts of what used to be Berlin. Jack led the human contingent, while Zephyri forces, adept at electronic warfare, jammed the enemy communications. The night before the operation, Jack met with Zephyri commanders in a makeshift war room. Together, they went over every detail, every contingency. We strike at 0300 hours. Synchronization is key. We can't afford any delays. Our teams are ready, our tech is primed. Let's make this hurt, Jack briefed, his voice firm. As they executed the plan, the Critharians were caught off guard. The depot was destroyed, dealing a significant blow to their logistics. More importantly, it marked a turning point in the war. The successful operation boosted morale and solidified the effectiveness of the alliance. After the mission, Jack and Tyla reviewed the outcomes and adjusted their strategies accordingly. We've shown them we can hit them hard and where it hurts. This is just the beginning, Tyla, Jack said, a rare smile crossing his face. Indeed, Major Reynolds. Today we've sown fear into our enemies' hearts. Let's continue this path, Tyla responded, her voice filled with a resolve as strong as Jack's. As the alliance grew in strength and number, Jack saw a new hope for Earth and its allies. Together they had turned the tide, proving that unity was not just their best weapon, but their only hope for victory. Major Jack Reynolds stood overlooking the operations room, where his team and their new allies coordinated attacks across the globe. The walls were plastered with digital maps showing real-time troop movements and tactical advancements. Since forming the alliance, their efforts had become more precise and devastating to the Critharians. But Jack knew they needed a game-changer to shift the war in their favor permanently. His thoughts were interrupted by a scientist, Dr. Emil Lang, who approached with a sense of urgency. Major, we've developed something you might want to see. It's a potential game-changer. Intrigued, Jack followed Dr. Lang to a secure laboratory, where a team of human and HFY scientists were working. They presented a new biological agent specifically designed to target the war beast's unique physiology. This agent acts fast and degrades quickly to prevent any long-term environmental impact. It's tailored to exploit a genetic flaw we discovered in the beasts, Dr. Lang explained, showing data on a screen. Jack considered the implications. How do we deploy it? We've engineered it to be aerosolized. A few well-placed drone strikes could incapacitate any beast within a mile radius, a HFY scientist added. Let's test it, Jack decided. The field test was conducted under tight security, with a small, contained war beast brought in under heavy sedation. When the agent was released, the beast's reaction was immediate and undeniable. It weakened, showing signs of disorientation and reduced aggression. Satisfied with the results, Jack organized a meeting with his tactical commanders and alliance leaders, including Ambassador Tyla. They gathered around a holographic table displaying global hotspots. We have a new weapon in our arsenal, and it's time to use it, Jack announced, explaining the biological agent's effects. We'll target the beasts during our next major engagement. This could level the playing field. Tyla nodded, her face serious. Our intel suggests a large-scale deployment of beasts near the Rockies. It's a critical area they want to control. That's where we strike, Jack said firmly. The operation was planned with meticulous detail. Human and allied forces prepared for what would be one of the largest coordinated assaults of the war. Jack led from the front, stationed at a command post near the Rockies, where he could oversee the operation and react to any unforeseen complications. As D-Day arrived, Jack was in constant communication with units on the ground and drone operators. The drones swooped in silently, releasing the agent into the designated areas. As the mist settled, reports flooded in. Beasts were faltering, showing all the predicted symptoms. Jack grabbed his radio, directing the ground troops. "Move in! Push them back while they're down." The troops surged forward, exploiting the confusion among the Critharians. It was a fierce battle, with intense ground fighting, but the weakened state of the beasts gave the human allied forces a significant advantage. After hours of relentless conflict, the area was secured. Jack stood at the command post, watching as the last of the enemy retreated. Around him, cheers broke out among the soldiers and commanders. "We did it, Jack!" One of the commanders clapped him on the back. "We actually did it!" Jack allowed himself a moment to soak in the victory. "This is a major win, but it's not the end. We need to keep the pressure on," he responded, already thinking ahead to the next challenge. As news of the victory spread, morale soared among Earth's forces and their allies. Jack's strategy had turned the tide, proving that with the right tools and unity, they could reclaim their planet. Now, more than ever, they believed in the possibility of victory. The sun had barely risen over the horizon when Major Jack Reynolds arrived at the Blue Ridge Command Center, the site of what intelligence indicated would be the next major Critharian offensive. After their recent victory in the Rockies, the enemy was desperate to regain momentum, and the strategic location of Blue Ridge made it an obvious target. As Jack walked into the bustling command center, he was met by his key officers and allied leaders, all gathered to finalize their defenses. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone understood the stakes of the upcoming battle. Reports confirm a significant buildup of Critharian forces, including at least 3 war beast units, one of the intelligence officers briefed, pointing to the satellite images on the screen. Jack surveyed the room, his expression resolute. "We've beaten them before, and we'll do it again. We hold Blue Ridge at all costs. Prepare all units and ensure civilian safety. I want evacuations completed within the hour." The team sprang into action, coordinating with ground and air units while ensuring communication lines stayed open and secure. Jack took a moment to confer with Ambassador Tyla, who had arrived to oversee the contributions of their alien allies. "Tyla, your sharpshooters have been invaluable. I'm counting on your teams to cover our flanks," Jack said, examining the terrain map. "We won't let you down, Jack. We're positioned to strike at their vulnerabilities the moment they advance," Tyla responded confidently. As the Critharians began their assault, the air was filled with the sounds of artillery and the roars of war beasts. Jack coordinated the defense from the command post, issuing orders with calm precision. "Delta Team, move to Sector 4. Bravo, reinforce the northern ridge. Keep those beasts from breaking through," Jack commanded, his voice steady over the commotion. The battle intensified, with human and allied forces struggling to hold their ground against the sheer size and power of the advancing beasts. It was then that Jack ordered the deployment of the biological agent. Drones darted across the battlefield, dispersing clouds of the agent directly into the paths of the oncoming beasts. The effect was immediate. The beasts stumbled, their charges disrupted. Seeing the opportunity, Jack grabbed his radio. "All units, push forward now. Target their weak spots." Human and Zephyri troops surged ahead, exploiting the confusion. Explosions lit up the early morning sky as artillery targeted the now vulnerable beasts. Amidst the chaos, Jack's tactical acumen shone, his commands guiding his troops like a conductor leading an orchestra. The battle raged for hours, but slowly the tide turned. The Critharians, disoriented by their faltering beasts and the relentless assault, began to retreat. Jack watched from his command post, not allowing himself to relax until the last enemy unit was driven back. As the dust settled, the cost of the battle became apparent. Blue Ridge was devastated, and both sides had suffered heavy casualties. Yet, amidst the destruction, Jack's forces had held firm, securing a pivotal victory. "We held them off, Jack," one of his captains reported, relief mixed with exhaustion in his voice. Jack nodded, his face weary but determined. "Yes, but this is far from over. We need to assess our losses, regroup, and prepare for the next engagement," They'll be back, and we need to be ready. As his team coordinated the post-battle recovery, Jack took a moment to survey the battlefield. The victory at Blue Ridge was a testament to the bravery and skill of his forces and their allies. It was a hard-fought win, but it was also a clear message to the Critharians. Earth would not fall easily. Jack's resolve hardened. This war was theirs to win, and he would lead them every step of the way. After the hard-fought victory at Blue Ridge, Major Jack Reynolds knew that the Critharians would be reeling, but not defeated. With the enemy momentarily staggered, he proposed a bold maneuver to the Allied command, a direct strike on the Critharian mothership, currently orbiting just beyond Earth's atmosphere. In the war room, Jack stood before a holographic projection of the mothership, addressing a room full of skeptical faces. If we strike now, while they're still regrouping, we can negotiate from a position of strength. This isn't just about another battle, it's about ending this war. General Carter nodded slowly, weighing Jack's words. It's a huge risk, Jack. If you're captured or killed, it could break our momentum. Jack met the general's gaze firmly. It's a risk I'm willing to take for peace. We have a window and I say we take it. With reluctant approval, Jack and a hand-picked team of human and Zephyri commandos prepared for the mission. They boarded a stealth shuttle, retrofitted by Zephyri technology to evade Critharian sensors. As the shuttle approached the mothership, the tension was palpable. Jack reviewed the plan with his team one last time. Remember, this is a stealth mission. We get in, deliver our terms, and get out. Stay sharp, stay quiet, and keep to the shadows. The shuttle docked silently, and the team infiltrated the massive ship. They avoided patrols and navigated through the labyrinthine corridors towards the central command hub. Every step took them deeper into the heart of enemy territory. Suddenly, an unexpected patrol rounded the corner. Quick thinking and quicker reflexes were all that saved them from detection. Jack and his team subdued the Critharian soldiers, moving swiftly to secure the area. Once at the command hub, Jack initiated a live broadcast throughout the ship, his image appearing before the Critharian commanders. I am Major Jack Reynolds of the Earth Defense Forces. We have penetrated your defenses. I propose a ceasefire and negotiations for peace. Refuse, and your ship will be incapacitated. The Critharian commander, a towering figure with hardened features, appeared on the screen. You have audacity, human. Why should we negotiate when we can simply crush you? Jack stood resolute. Because you underestimate our resolve. This war can end in two ways. You withdraw, or we continue until we win. Your choice. Tense minutes ticked by before the commander finally responded. We will consider your proposal. Jack and his team were escorted to a secure room to await the decision. The risk of betrayal was high, but Jack remained calm, his mind alert for any sign of treachery. After what seemed like an eternity, the Critharian commander returned. We accept your terms, Major Reynolds. Let us end this conflict for the sake of all our people. The negotiations were swift, terms were laid out, ceasefires were declared, and plans for a formal peace treaty began. As Jack and his team returned to Earth, there was a palpable sense of relief mixed with triumph. Jack stood before his assembled forces and allies back at the command center, announcing the ceasefire. Cheers erupted, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was hope. This is a victory for all of us, Jack addressed the crowd. A victory for those who believe in the power of unity and the enduring spirit of humanity. As celebrations began, Jack felt a deep, gratifying exhaustion. The war was not over, but this decisive action had steered its course towards peace. Humanity had stood on the brink and fought back with courage and cunning, led by a man who believed in the impossible. In the aftermath of the ceasefire, Major Jack Reynolds stood on a podium in front of the United Nations. The representatives of Earth and its new alien allies gathered to formalize the peace treaty. The hall buzzed with the subdued chatter of species from different corners of the galaxy, each contributing to what would be a historic moment. Jack adjusted the microphone, his eyes scanning the diverse audience before him. Today marks a new beginning, he began, his voice steady and clear. Not just for humanity, but for all beings who seek peace over destruction. This treaty is not just words on paper. It is a commitment, a promise to a future we all deserve. As he spoke, nods and murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Jack continued. We faced annihilation, but together we found strength. The Critharians have agreed to withdraw completely, and in return, we extend our hand in peace, with the hope that one day we may even find friendship. The Critharian representative, a stern figure who had negotiated fiercely during the peace talks, stood. His voice, when he spoke, carried a new respect for the assembly. Humanity has shown us the power of resolve and the effectiveness of unity. We accept this peace and will honor it. Applause echoed through the hall, the sound marking the end of hostilities and the beginning of a new era. After the ceremony, Jack was surrounded by diplomats and soldiers, each expressing their gratitude and respect. Ambassador Tyla approached him, a smile playing on her lips. "Jack, you did more than lead a war. You paved the way for peace," she said warmly. "It was a collective effort, Tyla. Without our alliance, this day wouldn't have come," Jack replied, acknowledging the role of every individual and race involved in the struggle. As the crowds began to disperse, General Carter clapped Jack on the shoulder. "You've got a new mission now, Major," he said with a grin. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what would that be, sir?" "To help us keep this peace. After all, the hardest battles often come after the war." Jack nodded, understanding the weight of the task ahead. "I'm ready for it, sir. We all are." Returning home, Jack walked through the streets of his city, which bore the scars of the conflict, but stood resilient and alive. Families reunited, children played, and communities rebuilt, their activities a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome. As he watched a sunset paint the sky with hues of orange and purple, Jack felt a profound sense of accomplishment and optimism. The war had changed him, hardened him, but also opened his eyes to the vastness of the universe and the potential for harmony within it. "We made it," he whispered to himself, a small smile breaking through as he looked up at the stars, now symbols of hope and exploration rather than fear. With the war behind them and an uncertain but hopeful future ahead, humanity and its allies stood on the brink of a new age, an age of recovery, rebuilding, and most importantly, cooperation across the stars. The peace treaty was only the first step, but it was a step taken together. And for Jack and all who had fought and endured, it was enough to begin anew.